Scarlett was stabbed by accident. I'd been throwing knives. I'd thrown a spatula or tongs. Scarlett lunged towards the knife. I had swiped the tongs along the kitchen surface. These are the 5 different stories that 50-year-old Simon Vickers from Darlington, North England, gave the police in explanation of how he came to stab his 14-year-old daughter through the heart, that single stab wound causing his daughter's death. As the judge said in court, what a load of rubbish. Simon Vickers' previous convictions include a conviction for wounding with intent, where he used a knife on the face of some bloke and he got 2 years for that. He also has convictions for minor dishonesty, the last of which coming in 1999. However, the judge said at his sentencing that given the age or lack of relevance of those convictions, they wouldn't increase the sentence that he proceeded to impose on Vickers, which was a 15-year life sentence. So, what were the events that led up to the point where Simon Vickers stabbed his own daughter through the heart in the kitchen of his home on the 5th of April 2024? Let's investigate. But first, if I've got you hooked on the video so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready, and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. On the night in question, Scarlett, her mother and her father were all at home. Scarlett's mother is called Sarah Hall. She's not married to Simon Vickers, but they'd been together for 27 years. And there is no evidence that there was anything other than loving and nurturing dynamics in the family home. It was a Friday night. After work, Simon had smoked some cannabis and drunk some wine. He was believed by the judge to have drunk a lot more than the 4 glasses of wine that he claimed to have drunk. Scarlett came home and was in her bedroom while her father was watching footy on the TV. The father, Simon, then joined Sarah, Scarlett's mother, as Sarah cooked the evening meal. Scarlett came downstairs at about 10:15 p.m. to join her mum and dad in the small kitchen. She and her mother were throwing grapes at each other and Simon wanted them to stop. Sarah Hall, the mother, then pinched Simon on the bottom from behind with some cooking tongs. As Simon turned, she caught his finger with the tongs and Simon screamed out, "Ow!" And Scarlett then said, "Dad, don't be a wimp." Sarah then had her back to both Scarlett and her partner as she had gone back to cooking. Simon was evidently still upset because as Sarah turned back to her cooking, Simon said, "Well, how would you like it?" Exactly what happened after that point, only Simon knows. All of a sudden, Scarlett screamed out, "Ow, ow." And then her mother turned round to see her standing injured. There was no knife in Sarah's body because, of course, Simon had pulled it out by then. The knife breached the chest wall between the 5th and 6th of Scarlett's ribs. It went through the lowest point of the upper lobe of the left lung before passing into the left ventricle of the heart, where it ended. The approximate wound tract length was 11 centimetres. The knife also had to pass through her fluffy nightgown, her top and her bra. That couldn't have happened as the result of trifling unintended force. The stab through the heart caused blood loss to the left chest cavity, and it is precisely that loss of blood that caused Scarlett's death. To stab Scarlett, Simon must have been very close to her. She was stabbed in the part of her chest which is normally protected by the arm. After being stabbed, Scarlett stood in the area close to the back door before collapsing. As her mother said, the last thing that she must have seen before she died was the panic on the face of her mother and on the face of her father. Her mother called 999. The paramedics arrived at 22:50 and police officers also attended. Police Sergeant Sarah Thompson stated that she could see paramedics performing on Scarlett and that Simon and Sarah were standing in the doorway of the kitchen. Before she understood what had actually happened, she had asked the parents to go and wait in the living room. And at that point, Simon said to her, quote, "We were mucking about," unquote. Police Sergeant Sarah Thompson noted that Simon was heavily intoxicated. His speech was slurred and he stank of alcohol. Now, I don't know who Mr. Briley is. He was possibly a police officer or a paramedic, but he was there and he too also said that he thought that Simon was drunk. I'm about to reference a Mr. Crow. Again, I've got no idea who he is. He could have been a police officer, or he could have been a paramedic, or he could have been some other person, but it would be really strange if he was some other random person who was there. Anyway, having seen and heard all the evidence, including that of Mr. Crow, who actually didn't express a view as to whether Simon was drunk or not, the judge said that he, the judge himself, was satisfied that Simon was drunk, and that obviously affected his behaviour. In other words, it played a part in what he did to his daughter. But the judge also said he couldn't be sure of what part exactly Simon's intake of alcohol and also his intake of cannabis played in the offence.
Having seen and heard all the evidence, including that of Mr. Crow, who did not express a view that you were intoxicated, and also that there was no concern in the police station, I am satisfied that you had drunk more than you said you did. However, I cannot be sure of the part that alcohol played in this offence. It's likely it played a significant part, but I can't be sure about that to the criminal standard.
Scarlett was declared dead at 23:50. At the beginning, I outlined the 5 explanations that Simon gave the police as to how he had come to stab his daughter to death. What he told in court was one of the stories relating to kitchen tongs. He said that he was swiping tongs across the kitchen surface and they ended up flying up in the air, and somehow that led to Scarlett getting stabbed in the heart with a knife. Simon reckoned that he hadn't even been aware that there was a knife anywhere nearby, except for possibly at the point when his partner, Scarlett's mother, had been cutting onions. The pathologist, however, affirmed what just about every sane and right-minded person could see. There's only one way that Scarlett could have come to sustain a fatal stab wound through the heart, and that is by someone's deliberate act of stabbing her through the heart.
Simon Vickers, you've given different accounts of what has happened. Specifically, that she was stabbed by accident, that you've been throwing knives, that you'd thrown a spatula or tongs, that Scarlett lunged towards the knife, and that you were swiping tongs along the kitchen surface. Indeed, the unconvincing and wholly implausible version of events you gave to the jury involved you swiping tongs along the kitchen surface before them flying up into the air, and that you'd not even been aware of a knife before or after Scarlett suffered injury. Indeed, you said knife wasn't in any equation except when Sarah Hall had been cutting onions. Given the evidence of the pathologist, this was clearly untrue. She came by that fatal injury through your hand. As the pathologist said, your arm needed to be braced at the time of the stabbing motion.
Sarah Hall, Scarlett's mother, has stood by her man. She has stuck up for him from the word go and insisted that what he did was just an awful accident and nothing more. Scarlett was their only child, and she was a young lady with her whole life ahead of her. The family all got on together, and in a moment of madness, if you like, that was destroyed. Scarlett's life was ended by her own father, someone she would never have expected to have done any such thing to her, someone she trusted and loved. Oh, I assume she did, because there's no evidence that the situation was any different. There's lots of speculation and gossip online, of course, about why Simon Vickers did what he did to his daughter. Some people say that Scarlett was, at the point when Simon stabbed her, just about to reveal a really devastating secret against her father that would have horrified her mother and broken the whole family down. That's just one story that people have come up with to explain what Simon did. I don't believe it for a minute personally. It's all speculation. Others are saying that it had to have been an accident and therefore it couldn't be deemed murder. It should have been deemed unlawful act manslaughter, where you get a much lighter sentence usually. But as the judge says, Simon had to have picked up the knife. If you pick up a knife and go towards someone with it and stab them through the heart, you have intended either to kill them or to cause them serious harm. Intending to kill or to cause serious harm are the mental element of the act of murder, and of course the physical element is the murder itself. So on those two bases, it had to be deemed an act of murder, not an act of unlawful act manslaughter. Honestly, poor Scarlett, young lady, life ended in a moment of total craziness. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.